Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. It's a little bit of a dark and gloomy day here, so I apologize that it is dark in the plant room, but as you guys know, this is the brightest room in my house, so I'm just working with what I've got. But today I wanted to talk to you a bit about my Anthurium collection and go over the most to least difficult Anthurium that I have. I know for many people, Anthurium are a daunting species of plant to get into. I know for myself personally, I was afraid to get into them for the longest time because I heard that they really need high humidity and that they can be finicky and difficult plants. And that has somewhat proven to be true, but I love them anyway. And I accept them for crispy leaves and all just because of how pretty they are, how beautiful the new leaves come out. So I've gotten out all of my Anthurium here to sort of go over how difficult they are, if I would recommend them for beginners, things like that, and sort of the direction that I'm going to go with them going forward from what I've seen of what has been working and what hasn't. So with that, I'm going to start with what I think is the most difficult one in my collection, and that is this one. This is the new leaf, which is really pretty, but it did have a lot more leaves and it lost almost all of them. Here's the oldest leaf that I have left. It's a little bit crispy, but this is the Anthurium Bessiae. I got this locally in Texas. Actually, all of my Anthuriums I bought in person, almost all of them from Texas. So I am still afraid to get one shipped to me just because I feel like that wouldn't go over well for some reason, but this is an extremely difficult plant that I cannot seem to make happy no matter what I do. It puts out these beautiful, gorgeous new leaves. Other than that, it's just really unhappy to be alive. It had spider mites for a while there, and now it's just got 2 leaves. It's very thirsty. It's a lot thirstier than my other Anthurium for some reason, and I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. It has a ton of nodes down here, a lot of space where I guess I could try propagating it, but I haven't propagated an Anthurium before, so I don't know how well I would do. But this, I definitely don't recommend if you're a beginner, which is hilarious because this is one of the first Anthuriums I bought. It is one of the only ones of the first ones I bought that is still alive. I recently just killed my first one that I bought almost 2 years ago because it was the most difficult. It was the Anthurium pulcatense, and I never got it to grow a single leaf, and then it eventually just died. So I don't know what to think about that. But again, this is the Anthurium Bessiae, and it is the most difficult Anthurium in my collection. The next one is one that I have as a baby, and I feel like it should be a lot bigger by now, but it's not because it's pretty difficult, and that is my Anthurium Villainarum. This plant, as you can see by the crispy leaf, has not been the easiest for me, and I really don't know why. This is my second attempt at a Villainarum. I got a big one that died, then I got a little one because it was cheap, and for a while there it was growing well, and then it just sort of got crispy and a bunch of leaves died, and I think maybe it's got a new leaf coming out in the center there, but I don't know. I love it. I think it is a beautiful Anthurium. I think it is unique for being a velvety one. The new leaves are absolutely gorgeous, but I don't know how I haven't been able to keep this happy. I'm thinking maybe it's a combination of too much light and not enough humidity, as these leaves can burn pretty easily. So I think I'm gonna put it in a little bit of a darker space this year and see if I can maybe make it a bit easier, but right now I definitely don't recommend this one for a beginner with Anthurium, as it's just been a little bit too difficult for me. This next one is probably the last one that I would really say is difficult. The rest of them have their own challenges, but I wouldn't really consider them to be difficult plants like these first 3 on my list. And this is my Anthurium Magnificum crossed with Silver Blush. And I really don't know why this plant has been difficult. This is the first leaf that it's grown in my care, and obviously, as you can tell, it looks terrible. It just looks really bad. I haven't touched it the entire time it's been coming out, and it's just misshapen. It's weird. It's got holes in it. Like, nothing has touched it. I haven't looked at it. I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything. And it just came out like that. These 2 leaves are the ones it came with. This one immediately did some browning, which is to be expected, I guess, when I take it home from a nursery just because of the humidity change. But I really didn't expect the new leaf to come out like this, especially since this is the first new leaf that came out in my care, and it took so long. I think it took almost 6 months for it to grow a new leaf and to just look this bad, which is a shame because as you can see, the veining is absolutely beautiful and it is maturing compared to this one, which was the newest leaf. So I don't really know what I'm doing wrong with this plant. Maybe it's because I repotted it, but it was drying out so fast that I felt like I had to repot it. So I don't know. I'm gonna try to do better with this one, but I would not recommend this hybrid for beginners, even though these plants that make the cross are typically easier. It's just not working out for me so far. But I'm not gonna give up on it until it dies. So Magnificum Silver Blush Hybrid, I don't know why, but it's a bit of a weirdo right now. This next one kind of pains me to put as a more difficult one because I love it so much, but it grows so slow and it's currently losing a leaf. And that is going to be this one right here. This is Bessier crossed with Magnificum. I just didn't know the name, but it's so pretty and the leaves come out bright pink. Unfortunately, this leaf is dying off. This was the original leaf that I had, but oh my gosh, I love it. I love this plant so much. I love the hot pink. I think I posted a reel when this new leaf came in. It's so pretty. It's just really slow. And I haven't repotted it since I got it, but the roots are very healthy. I got this from Equigenera in California when I was on a road trip to California, and it did fine with the whole ride back. So it is a bit hardier. It's just really slow. That's really my only complaint about it. I would recommend this for beginners. Even though my Bessier is really difficult, this cross seems to work really well in terms of hardiness. I really haven't had any browning with this plant, which is one of the few Anthurium I have that has had absolutely no browning, except this leaf is just turning yellow and dying off, but I wouldn't consider that browning, if you know what I mean. So I would consider getting this if you're a beginner. It has a really striking hot pink color. The petioles are pink back here. It's just slow. So if you don't mind a plant that's not gonna grow very fast, I think this would be a really great one. And I'm sure it would grow faster if I had more humidity for it, but I am working on a solution for that, which I will do in a different video, hopefully coming out soon. But that is the Bessier Affinity crossed with Magnificum. This next Anthurium is one that took a while for me to figure out, but I think I've got it now. And that is going to be my Magnificum crossed with It's Minum. Sure. So it had a little bit of an issue when I repotted it and moved it, where it got all of these yellow spots. I am going to get rid of this leaf soon, but for the sake of transparency, I left it on for this video. The new leaf here is really great. It's grown quite a few leaves in my care. It's lost a few. Like I said, it went through a rough patch because I repotted it and then I moved it to a different spot, all within like a month or two. So it didn't really like being moved around, which is why I don't have it as one of the easiest plants on this list. But I do really like the unique leaf shape and the veining, which is different than most of my other velvet Anthurium. So that I really like about it. And it has been pretty easygoing ever since it's been in one spot. Like I said, this new leaf is pretty good. A couple little scars right there, but I think that's because it was touching another leaf when this leaf formed. So I'm not really gonna blame that on anything other than the fact that it was too close to another plant. I would recommend this one for beginners if you don't move it. Just find a spot for it, leave it there, make sure it is well watered, and it will reward you. I definitely keep this plant a lot better watered right now, and you can see all of the new root growth right here doing really well. All of this that's balled up right here is from when it was in a smaller pot, but these white new growths are super happy. I love the thick roots of Anthurium, and this has been a really easygoing plant that I honestly, I'm gonna put the name of it on the screen so that you guys, if you're interested in it, can go find it. I got this at Wild Roots Nursery in New Braunfels, Texas, which is where I got a lot of these that are gonna be on the rest of this list that are the easier ones, so that's a good thing. But yeah, overall pretty happy with it, and I'm excited to see if it'll get even easier now that I have it figured out. The next Anthurium is going to be the first Docblock hybrid on the list. All of my Docblocks are typically pretty easy for me, which is really great because they can be a bit more expensive, and I really don't want to go around wasting money on plants that aren't going to be easy to care for. So this is going to be my Docblock crossed with Red Crystallinum. I absolutely love the coloring on this plant. It looks a little bit spread out right now just because it lost a few leaves right after I got it. It took a while for this one in particular to establish, but ever since it's been growing, it's got new leaves forming, and I've been fairly pleased with it. I really don't have too much to say about it other than the fact that it has been relatively easy. If you are willing to pay more for Docblock hybrids, I would say go for it. If you're a beginner, you're gonna get some stunning purples, maroons, crimson colors, maybe even some pinks, and it's just going to be an easier plant for you to take care of. So I would definitely recommend this one. Next, I have another Docblock hybrid, and this one's gonna be a little bit crispy, but keep in mind, I have pretty low humidity here in Central Texas, and this is going to be the Docblock F2 crossed with Zara, crossed with Michelle. So these are all Docblock hybrids crossed together to make this beautiful Anthurium. Each new leaf has been sizing up bigger than the last. The old ones do tend to get a little crispy and then eventually die off, but I really don't mind, just because when you get a new leaf like this one, it's absolutely gorgeous. It is sort of stretching out a little bit with the petioles, so I need to figure out a better lighting situation for it. But other than that, it has been really easygoing. I'm thinking maybe if I stake it up too, because it is leaning quite a bit right now. So this one, I would say very easy. Definitely recommend it if you are a beginner. It's not too difficult at all. I sort of have it in a no drainage situation right now where I was using the leca as sort of the water reservoir. It is starting to root into the leca as plants naturally will go toward the water source, and it's filling out this pot. I am gonna wait a while before repotting it just because I like to make sure they're nice and snug. But other than that, again, not too much to say about these easy ones other than they're easy and I highly recommend them. This next Anthurium is relatively new, so I don't have too much to say about it yet, and it has yet to grow me a new leaf, but I've had no browning so far, so that's really nice. And that is my Crystallinum crossed with Ace of Spades. This is my first Ace of Spades hybrid. Ace of Spades has been on my wish list for a long time. I've only had this plant for a month and a half now, so really not enough time for it to grow a new leaf, but it's been very easygoing so far. That's all I have to say. I'm not sure if I'd recommend this to a newbie just because Ace of Spades and their hybrids can be a bit more pricey, though this one in particular was pretty cheap at $45. So maybe if you could get one for this price, I'd recommend for a newbie. But I really like the velvety texture of the leaves. I like how it's just been hanging out, getting acclimated to my climate. I'm hoping when it grows a new leaf, it'll be better than the Magnificum Silver Blush hybrid and it won't go all crazy on me. But yeah, not much to say. It's just a really nice plant. No browning at all so far. So it really doesn't mind the humidity transition, and I'm going to attribute that to the hybrid. Crystallinum is a pretty hardy Anthurium, so I think this one is going to do very well in my collection. Here I have my final Docblock hybrid, and this is probably my favorite one. This is the Docblock F2 crossed with Silver Blush. It is a little bit thirsty right now, but this is my fastest growing Anthurium. It has sized up quite a lot since I've had it. Oh, I've probably had it for 8 months now. All of the original leaves are gone. It came with like 4 leaves, so these are all new leaves to me. It'll kind of grow and rotate to follow the light, but it is sizing up beautifully. The veining is gorgeous. I think this is a very hardy cross. I would definitely recommend this for a newbie, though I think unless you can get it as a little seedling, it is going to be pretty expensive. Just the little baby seedling, which was maybe half this size, was $45. So if you're gonna get a full grown one, you're probably gonna be paying more than $100. If you're willing to pay that, awesome. If you're not, try to find a seedling. But this has been a very nice plant to have in my collection. Now we're getting into a couple of my favorite Anthurium in my collection. This one is probably my favorite, though I don't think it's as easy as my absolute favorite one. That is going to be my Anthurium War Aquum. This one came from Wild Roots Nursery as well as a little baby seedling. It did go through some issues when I was in the hospital last year, and it lost most of its leaves, which is why it only has 2 right now, but it was very forgiving. I honestly don't understand how people say that this plant is difficult, because this is the second easiest Anthurium in my collection. Super forgiving, super hardy. It really doesn't have a ton of browning. Like that's the most that I get before leaf dies off. I do have this big, beautiful new leaf right here. It has matured very quickly, sort of like the Silver Blush and Docblock hybrid that I have. Each new leaf is bigger than the last, and I'm just very excited to keep growing this plant. I really couldn't say enough good things about it. I would say, because I know other people have issues with this plant, get it if you're a beginner, if you can get it for cheap, just because I don't want you getting it just because I said it was easy and then you end up killing it or it doesn't do well for you or something. This is one that I would err on the side of caution just because I know a lot of people have a hard time with it. It's personally been super easy for me and I love it. I got it as a seedling for $20, which I think is an extremely reasonable price. So if you can get one for around that price too, I highly recommend it. And I honestly think nothing beats the look of that beautiful, strappy, gorgeous leaf. Nutmeg is very curious about it right now as I'm holding it up. But yeah, Anthurium War Aquum is a huge hit for me, so definitely recommend. Last but not least, the easiest Anthurium in my collection is going to be the Anthurium Crystallinum. I absolutely love this plant. I think it is so gorgeous. Each new leaf has sized up bigger than the last, and this is honestly the best beginner Anthurium and one of the best Anthuriums all around, considering what I put it through the day that I got it. So I purchased it right after I moved here to Texas a year and a half ago, and I left it in a hot car when it was 97 degrees out, and I burnt every single leaf to a crisp except for one. It was like half burnt to a crisp, so it was still alive, and I just sort of nursed it back to health over several months, and it's been growing bigger and better and more beautiful new leaves each time. The new leaves do come out with some issues sometimes. Like I said, I have very low humidity here, so they're not going to be perfect. I try not to touch them when the new leaf is forming. This one is pretty much hardened off by this point, so I don't mind touching it. But this went from a little baby seedling about the size of this one to this, which is absolutely crazy to think about for me. In a year and a half, I don't have any plant that's sized up that quickly in my entire collection, regardless of Anthurium or not. So I cannot say enough good things about this plant. I have moved it from a little seedling cup to a 4-inch pot to now I think this is 6-inch. It's just like tall, but it is a 6-inch pot, and it could not be happier. This is so hardy. I don't personally mind the browning. Like I said, it just comes with the territory of where I live, but it is going to be super forgiving. So you could really abuse this plant. You could underwater it. You could give it low humidity, and it's still gonna give these beautiful, big, gorgeous leaves for you, and it's gonna get even more mature. So if you are looking for the perfect starter Anthurium, this is the one that I would recommend. All right, so that is it for this video. Let me know what you think about my Anthurium collection. Do you agree with my picks for easy versus difficult? Have you had a similar experience with me or not? Let me know. If you like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from me and Nutmeg here on the channel. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.